Welcome back, actor friends. I am looking at Ophelia's Oh What a Noble Mind is Here O'erthrown, and I'm excited about this one because it is beautiful and awesome, and it has been requested and I have just got around to it now. So as per usual, I'm going to talk a little bit about the context. I'll give you the line by line meaning breakdown, and then at the end I'm going to do a little reading of it so you can hear how I would kind of phrase it and sort of act it. So I hope that's all helpful for you. If you're preparing for an audition of some sort, please look at my playlist, Get Better at Shakespeare, because that has all the technical stuff in it that's kind of portioned in bite-sized pieces so you can improve quickly before your audition. So I will link that in the description below. Let's jump straight into context. Now this is pretty famous, this monologue and this scene, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. What I want you to think about as an actor is that Ophelia is in a state where she doesn't know if the relationship that she has been in was real or not. And now I think most of us can relate to that in some way. So she is being told, and this is a big thing about Ophelia, is that she doesn't really get to speak for herself a lot of the time. She's kind of told how to think and how to feel and how to behave, which is, you know, difficult and problematic and all those things. And so she's being told, no, he didn't really like you and you know, should never have been with him and all those kinds of things. And then she doesn't know what to believe, I think. And then she's told, go and take the trinkets back to him that he gave to you as signs of his love and affection and commitment. And so she does this, which in itself is probably going to be quite a hard thing to do. So she's already steeling herself in this scene to give this stuff back to this guy who may or may not be going bonkers. And she has to deal with him just being horrible to her, just telling her, you know, just, I never loved you. And she responds, I was the more deceived, which means she really thought that he did love her. So imagine the kind of wounding that's happening in this scene. And not only that, he's behaving very, very strangely. Now, different productions will do different things with this scene, and I really recommend that you watch as many productions as you can, or just versions of this scene if you can find them on YouTube. There are some great ones out there. And think about for yourself, what do you think he's actually doing? What sort of behavior are you seeing from him that makes you think that he's mad? Now you can kind of create this for yourself as an actor. It doesn't have to be a right or wrong thing. You can think about, you know, is he getting up in your grill, licking your face? I don't know, like what things would make you go, oh my God, this guy has lost it. Choose stuff that's going to be powerful for you, stuff that you can sort of feel, that you can connect to, not random ideas like he's running around the room screaming or whatever. Something that feels real and scary. And I pretty much always recommend, if you've got an acting friend that you can work with, practice the scene leading up to it because it is so informative. So even if you can jump on Zoom if you have to, grab an acting partner and play the bit before and see what you find, because it really, really does open you up to what she's experiencing. And it also really gives you that clear prior moment that can help you jump into the monologue appropriately and with the right sort of power and the right sort of attack, which can be quite hard. And with that in mind, let's jump into the line-by-line breakdown. She starts with an O. Now, I talk about this all the time. O, so she says, oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown. An O should be a guttural sound. It's a connection to breath, and it can sound lots of different ways, kind of depending on, you know, what you think works, what feels comfortable for you, and what you feel kind of brave enough to do. Ophelia actually uses two phrases starting with that O sound just before this monologue begins, which means she's almost potentially like crying, screaming out, like the O can be done in a lot of different ways, and she's done it now 3 times, which means she's in a pretty strong state of emotion. So that gives you a big clue going into it, kind of where you need to be, and you need to be there like that. So do yourself a favor and find that breath, find that power, and let it out. Even if it feels weird, go weird and then pull it back. And if you want to know more, I sort of talk about that stuff a bit more in my latest video, which was 5 top tips for nailing your Shakespeare monologue. So please look at that as well, and that will help you kind of get the vibe of what I'm talking about. So o'erthrown, please don't say overthrown, okay? It's deliberately trying to contract so it has less syllables, so don't add another one in. O'erthrown, okay? She's saying here that he used to be such a smart guy, an amazing guy, an amazing philosopher kind of. You know what he's like. We know what Hamlet is like, and she knew, maybe better than anyone else, what an amazing mind he had. It must be awful. So if you think about, if you've ever experienced that, if you've ever known anybody who has, you know, for whatever the circumstances are, has lost their ability to communicate or to be the wonderful person that they used to be, it's a horrible thing to have to grieve. And she's kind of grieving it alone because no one else seems to give a rat's bum. Right, so I just talked for 3 minutes on the first line. Let's not do too much more of that. So this next section, she's got a list of 3 things and then another 3 things that kind of connect to them. So you need to be thinking through kind of imagery as you speak. And what she's doing here when she lists these things is to list all the wonderful elements of Hamlet, all the things that he was as a person. So she's got the courtiers, scholars, soldiers, eye, tongue, sword. So they correspond to each other. So that is the courtier's eye. Now that might be to do with, you know, why she chose an eye. You might say it's to do with the sense of aesthetic and beauty that might come with being a person of being well born, or it could be to do with the insight, I guess. I would say probably eye would be more to do with aesthetics. Scholars, tongue, so they correspond, scholar and tongue. So someone that can explain concepts well, someone that is a good communicator, better than me. And soldiers, sword. So he's also a fighter. So he's not just someone that talks, he's someone that does. So these are all the things that she thinks of when she thinks of Hamlet. So that says a lot about her and their relationship already. The expectancy and rose of the fair state. So again, think about why is she choosing these words? Expectancy and rose of the fair state. So expectancy meaning that he was going to be king. He was going to be this wonderful, wonderful person when he came to power, theoretically. And rose being this beautiful emblem as well, something that sort of stood out to represent everything that they were as a country. So he was held up high, is what she's saying, by the people around him and by the whole, by all of Denmark. The glass of fashion and the mold of form. Now this, another thing, she tells us so much about Hamlet here. So the glass of fashion, he was so well put together, like literally like a well-dressed dude. The mold of form, that he had an amazing I was gonna say body, that he basically that he was like good to look at. That's what she's saying. She's like, this guy had everything. Observed of all observers. That is quite hard to get out, so really wrap your mouth around that and really spell it out for the audience. Kind of chew on those words. Observed of all observers. Quite down. I think of this almost as, if you think of it today, as someone that would be an influencer. So someone that's kind of famous, essentially, someone that's being watched a lot, observed a lot, but is in himself an observer of the world. So everyone was always watching him, but he was always watching others and taking in the world and what was around him. And down really just means like ruined. With all of these that I've just mentioned, really do try and give yourself some images in your mind and also memories. So not just, you know, a rose of the fair state. Although it can be helpful to connect to the image of a rose, you might also connect to a memory of Hamlet at court, you know, shaking everybody's hands, and Ophelia watching him from afar and just thinking, this guy, like, he just knows how to be a prince. Now she switches to talking about her own experience. So that's kind of a beat change there. And I, of ladies most deject and wretched, that sucked the honey of his music vows. So the ladies most deject and wretched bit, I think, is sort of just examining her state and what has become of her, in a way that she, as just a normal person, a normal woman in the world that fell in love with someone, it's gone really badly. And notice here, this is kind of a mixed metaphor. Sucked the honey of his music vows. Like, why do music vows have honey? It's a weird kind of metaphor. So why? If you think about the imagery of that, is that he's offered to her this beautiful kind of song and she's like eaten it up. That is the imagery there. She's like, yes, please, Hamlet. It's beautifully, it's sort of romantic, but also very intimate in a way as well, but also a strange combination of imagery. A lot going on there, as there is with everything in this monologue. There's so much going on. Now see that noble and most sovereign reason, like sweet bells jangled, out of tune and harsh. So that's kind of recapping all that stuff that she said before. The reason that she's talking about there is his ability to reason, not like a random reason for something. So that's why she's saying a noble and most sovereign reason. It's him, his ability, his intellect, essentially. Like sweet bells jangled, out of tune and harsh. So it's that imagery of kind of like breaking something beautiful or misusing something beautiful. That unmatched form and feature of blown youth, blasted with ecstasy. So that whole bit there is painting this picture of him as like the most beautiful creature. He just had it all. Blasted with ecstasy is talking about, ecstasy is more like madness in this case. So blasted apart, this image of this beautiful person, broken, blasted apart with this madness that's come through. Cool. It's intense. It's full on imagery. And then another oh. Oh, woe is me. To have seen what I have seen, see what I see. I think that's fairly self-explanatory, but again, lean into those vows. So many long vows. Again, I think with this bit, it's good to reflect on the fact that she is kind of the only one seeing this. She, I think, understands him in a way that other people don't, and she sees into him and sees the real tragedy of what's happening to him in a way that other people don't. So let's do a reading of it. I want to see what I can find here. Oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown. The courtiers, scholars, soldiers, eye, tongue, sword, the expectancy and rose of the fair state, the glass of fashion and the mould of form, the observed of all observers, quite down. And I, of ladies most deject and wretched, that sucked the honey of his music vows, now see that noble and most sovereign reason, like sweet bells jangled, out of tune and harsh, that unmatched form and feature of blown youth, blasted with ecstasy. Oh, woe is me, to have seen what I have seen, see what I see. What I find is hard about this one is a balance. She is very intelligent and she's able to articulate a lot of what's going on for herself, and she sort of switches between feeling it and articulating it, sort of like she comes in and out of it. I think what I found useful is trying to paint this picture for someone else. So this is a soliloquy, so thinking of the audience and trying to get them to understand this guy. You just don't get it. This guy was amazing. He was such an amazing guy, and we all thought he was going to become this amazing thing, and it's just over. I'm so upset. It's not real. Oh my goodness. What I would recommend that you do is play with what feels good to try and, you know, grab back onto your own intellect and explain, and when does it feel like it works to kind of just go into that state of feeling those feelings. And finding that balance is hard. Right, so I'm going to link on screen my other Ophelia breakdown, which is My Lord, I've Been So Affrighted. I actually have a couple of videos on that one, and that talks a little bit about Ophelia's experience as well. And that's all for today. Yeah. I'll see you guys in the next video.